Welcome to Inside the Speakeasy podcast, the private room where today's sharpest founders, innovators, and renegade thinkers come to trade the ideas that move industries. This show is brought to you by High Level, the AI-driven business operating system trusted by over 2 million businesses to help automate, scale, and create real leverage. High Level isn't just a tool, it's the engine behind some of the most agile and high-performing teams on the planet. If you're ready to streamline everything, amplify your reach, and actually build a business that works for you, you're in the right place. Visit www.gohighlevel.com/speakeasy-mastermind-promo to get an exclusive 30-day trial for being a listener of the Inside the Speakeasy podcast. Enjoy the show. So how would you like to get 100,000 followers in 12 days? And as a bonus, a relationship of your dreams? Well, just got to listen to today's episode of Inside the Speakeasy podcast, where Brody Boyd from San Diego is going to share all of the incredible tips he's learned to crush it on relationships as a relationship coach, and how he was able to absolutely dominate on short viral videos and get it in huge reach through his audience. Welcome, Brody Boyd.
Thanks, Eric. Excited to be here.
Let's go a little bit into the dating side. And for those of you that are not the single females, hang in there just a few minutes, because we're not going to spend too much time, because I want to get into the juice, which is how we can all get some short form viral videos going. But you got to hear the backstory on how we got there. So how the hell did you get into relationship advice? And tell me a little bit about what's going on outside of your business.
Yeah, totally. And as many of us know, relationships, dating, marketing, sales, they're all very closely related, very similar principles. And this is actually beneficial to men as well, because in my journey of becoming a relationship coach, where I struggled with my dating when I was 16, and I started reading Speed Seduction by Ross Jeffries on my computer as a teenager. And then I got into Eben Pagan and Double Your Dating and so many other things in the self-help world, actually, that led me into also internet marketing. And I started making YouTube videos back in 2010, sharing some of the things I was learning in my dating journey, trying to master it for myself, because I had struggled so much with meeting women, talking to women, attracting them, not understanding these dynamics, that I became so passionate about it. So I ended up hiring my own dating coach as well, spent $3,000 for a weekend, sort of boot camp with me and two other guys. And I was just like, this is my path. And so I started sharing what I was learning on YouTube, building a bit of an audience, even though I didn't really know what I was doing. Learned internet marketing a bit more, mostly from Eben, and started putting out some ebooks, selling those online, and then video courses later on. And it actually wasn't until I met my wife in Honolulu, or actually Waikiki, that we started, once we got married, we started doing it together. She had been a love coach on her own before she met me, helping women. She was passionate about it just as much as I was. She had struggled with dating. And then so when me and Auntie got married, she started helping women. I was helping men. We did that for a while. And she also introduced me to her best friend, who was a business coach. And we really built it into an actual business. Started doing live events in the Bay Area, some of the biggest singles groups that we had there, workshops, and then eventually started moving things online. And so we started doing a lot of social media and online summits and whatnot. So that was basically the journey that led me to where we are today.
Wow, there's so much I want to unpack there. First of all, you're out there, you're learning. And, for those of you who can't see, Brody's a good looking guy out there. So, talk to me through first, what was the biggest thing? And, it's a two-part question. What was the biggest thing you learned? I'd say one or two takeaways in your journey of trying to, get when you're single. And then what sort of got you to think, wow, I'm learning this stuff, but I want to share it online as I'm kind of going through this journey. That's interesting.
Yeah. For me, what really connected the dots was because like I said, I started reading these books, Speed Seduction, and going into the pickup artist world. And it was interesting. There were some interesting principles, but even back then, being new to all of it, I still thought it was a little strange and a little bit weird and manipulative. In the Tao Te Ching, there's a verse that I love, which is, "He who stands on tiptoe is not steady." And what it felt to me going through that world was there was a lot of guys standing on their tiptoes, like performing, learning magic tricks, pickup lines, how to neg women and subtly insult them, and cocky comedy and all these different things. And I thought a lot of it was kind of a gimmick. You just learn these sexy techniques, and that's where guys started getting obsessed about it and getting into their heads and nerding out about it, which was really detrimental, I think, ultimately to me and to a lot of other guys. But through that, what I said the gift was, it led me to the world of self-improvement, that actually I can become better. I can learn how to attract women better. I could become a better man. And that was really the key for me, was when I understood that this actually wasn't so much about what I was saying and how to meet women and approaching and the routines and all the different steps and strategies. It was more about who I was being as a man, which meant, oh, I had to learn how to be a better man. And I started studying. That's when things really started picking up for me as far as my own love life and my own social journey, self-development journey, was learning about masculinity, learning about what makes a man, what are the stages of masculine development, such as the initiation rites we used to have when we were living back in caveman times that no longer exist today. That was part of the reason why I was struggling. I realized that was why I was struggling. I didn't know what it meant to be a man. I didn't connect to my own masculine core. And so I had to go through a journey of discovering that, what it means, what is the difference between masculine energy and feminine energy? What does it mean to be a masculine connected man versus a feminine connected woman? And how do these energies dance together like in a tango dance?
Hmm.
Actually creates attraction and as a metaphor for relationships. And that's what I dove into a lot more as my career evolved and started teaching that more. And one of the things I'm most passionate about that we now teach with women primarily is that polarity, the law of polarity, which states that opposite energies attract. And the more feminine you are as a woman, the more feminine connected you are, the more healthy masculine energy you're going to attract, and vice versa. So it works the same with a man. And it's also a business principle as well, potentially, with attracting clients when you are stepping into the energy of what they need. But yeah, so that was a big part of the journey for me.
Wow, interesting. And so along the way, you just decided to share it. You thought it was so interesting. You're like, let me just start sharing it and doing YouTube. I mean, how do you?
Yeah, so that's what led me into it. Was I just thought this was so fascinating for me. I was like, this is something so interesting, and I became so passionate about it that I couldn't help but like want to share. I had also learned this principle at some point that you learn something deeper when you teach it.
Yeah.
So I really took that on, and I started doing, when I was in college, I started putting on a little seminars where I would talk about some of my favorite books. Like, I think the first one I did was a seminar on the book, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, which I thought was a very fascinating book. And then I did Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and Mastery by George Leonard. So I did these little seminars where I'd have like 4 or 5 people show up and we'd talk about the book, and I'd kind of start teaching. And I think that was even before I started doing YouTube videos. So I was already like on this path of like, I just want to share this. I just want to talk about it with other people. And then so YouTube was a natural evolution of that, because I would be at home in my apartment and I would just be thinking about, I would actually be writing for myself in my journal. And I was like, well, I could put this on a blog. I could also talk about it on a video. And I started making these videos. And it was really my way of deepening my own journey, of deepening my own growth, which I think is a powerful way and an important way for most people to start their social media marketing journey, of actually putting out organic content. Is, what are you so passionate about that you can't even help yourself from talking about it?
Mm.
You almost want to just talk about it as a way to clarify your own thoughts as well, to have engagement with an audience, to attract similar people who are passionate about it. And it sort of builds organically from there. So that was a big reason why I started wanting to put this out there into the world, what I was learning.
I love it. Little did you know this would lead to the short viral, the short form video that you're eventually we're going to talk about. But, are you sharing any of the success stories you're having along the way in your dating journey, or is it just more the principles?
You know, it's funny because actually more often what I would do with my success stories is, I told you, this dating coach that I'd hired. Part of his program is he had like a private forum, and this was back in like 2010, and it was just some WordPress site that he had set up just for his members. And that's where I primarily would share my success stories, was in this group. And there was kind of, guys, we all kind of try to one up each other and share the craziest stories. And this is what happened. And most of the guys would just be like, oh, I wish that was me, or I want. And so it'd be
Yeah.
kind of like this jockeying for status in a way, but it was good because it encouraged everyone to like try to be better. Although some people were stretching the truth often, likely, and in what their success actually was. And there was part of that where I would share it there. And that was kind of also my foray into sharing and teaching and coaching what I was learning. But then, yeah, when I was online and YouTube, I would be talking about the principles, and there would be, yes, certain success stories I would go through. And this is what I did. This is what happened. But like I said, I think at the beginning for me, it was more about just the ideas. Like some of the things I was teaching, I didn't even have fully mastered for myself, but I loved like talking about the ideas and solidifying it for myself. A lot of it was what I read from books or got from my dating coach, or I was going into like some ancient like spiritual texts and things and just getting gold nuggets and then wanting to share that gold nugget, because I was just like, wow, this is such a cool idea. I just want to talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And then the success stories would kind of evolve from that later.
And then I'm going to flip it over to the female side. But as I transition there, how did you meet your wife?
Yeah, so we had met at a workshop at a church It was like a sort of a non-denominational. It's called Unity, and they had these meetup groups that were being hosted there. So it was actually more through meetup.com. I had been going out to workshops and events and groups, and this was part of my strategy that I learned of how to meet women because, of course, I like to go out to bars and I would go to karaoke and do that. But I realized for more quality women and also for my own personal growth, I wanted to go to more like workshops, events,
Yeah.
seminars. And so I've been going to this group for a while called New Mind, New Reality is a meetup group that I liked. I had just been in Waikiki for a couple months. And we'd have these discussions about spiritual self-development concepts. And then one day my wife came in and I saw it right away. I'm like, wow, that's my type. I mean, she's very interesting to me. And then she, sat in and we had sort of this conversation, the group conversation. We bounced ideas off each other. And then after the event, I talked to her and realized we had read a lot of the same books, studied David Data and polarity and relationship. She had also been doing her soulmate support groups, and there was just like so much alignment. And so this is what I teach a lot of people also. When you know you found the right person is when you feel you're connected on multiple levels. It's like the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual even, where you feel like, wow, did God bring us together? Like there's something bigger here. And I told her the night that we met, because I invited her out on a date, going to the beach that day after we met in the evening. And I told her that evening, I said, wow, you're like the girl from my story. And what I meant
Yeah.
by that is I had written my story, my sort of law of attraction process of like creating my reality. And I'd written my ideal woman in there. And she was like exactly what I had written down. And so I told her that. I was just like, wow, this is really interesting. And then I even told her also that night, I said, I feel we have a big responsibility to humanity, because I got this sense that was where like the spiritual connection was coming in, where I had like this sense that I think us coming together is for a bigger purpose. I think we're going to do something bigger in the world. And I had kind of foreseen and
I haven't heard that pickup line before, but that's a good one. I like that.
yeah, which is funny because that was not something I had learned. That was not something I would teach any guy of what to say to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
woman. The only reason I said it is because I was at the place where I didn't care anymore. I did want a longer term relationship with a woman, and I'd gotten to a point where like, I could see myself like wanting a longer term relationship, and I felt it. It was just like this hit, and I had to put it out there because I just thought it was really like, wow, this is different than any situation I had before. And she didn't know what to make of that either. She thought it was like something she'd never heard before from a guy and thought it was interesting, but she was also like still on board with it as far as we were both felt that connection, and we just kept dating and then eventually got into exclusive relationship and got married. So
Let's make some impact together. I'm down. All right, I like it.
yes.
Okay, so moving over to the other side of the coin, you guys do a lot of coaching and teaching, and you have amazing, amazing workshops that I've seen you work on. What are the top couple tips for if anybody is listening or they have friends? And you said this could work for both sides, but for the single ladies out there, what are some takeaways?
Yeah, and we don't necessarily work just with single women. I mean, it's actually a very small percentage of women who come to us are single. A lot of the women who come to us, they're attracted to a guy. Usually they have a guy in mind. I don't believe any woman is typically just purely single. There's some guy she's talking to, or an ex
Mm.
that's coming back in the picture, or some guy at work, or somebody who she's interested in. And the problem is she doesn't know how to get that guy to approach her, or she doesn't know how to, more often, she has some kind of relationship with him, but he's not committing, or he's not really treating her as a priority. He's not chasing her or pursuing her in the way that she wants, and may even be pulling away and losing interest. So that's where like where the pain comes in of like, I don't want him to pull away. I'm tired of this and I'm scared I'm going to lose him. And can you please help me? And that opens up the gateway to where now we get to look at, well, how are you actually showing up in your relationships with men in general, also your life in general? And do you know what it means to be feminine and to operate from your feminine core? And so that's really where the work goes into. And that's what we help the women with primarily is, and I'm most passionate about that, is what does it mean as a woman to really be connected to your feminine core? And it shows up in two ways, which is primarily magnetic feminine polarity, as we call it, which is the energetics of it. It's her actions, how she shows up in the world. But the other huge component of this, because we know how important communication is in any relationship, is magnetic feminine communication. So being connected to your feminine as a woman, how do you actually communicate from that place? What do the words sound like? How do you speak differently and authentically? Because we're not changing who they are. We're actually bringing them back to who they actually were when they were first born, before all the trauma, the wounds, the bad societal programming that taught them that they have to be some strong, independent boss babe that don't need no man. Well, that's actually putting up an armor and putting up a shield. And especially if they've had trauma where there's like a block there, it's hard for a man to actually feel their heart. It's hard for a man to actually feel their feminine core. And so they attract guys who are non-committal, who only see them as like a friends with benefits situation, but not anything really serious. And they're not falling deeply in love with these women. So we help
Mm.
crack open that core, take off the armor, and to expose that vulnerability and to be trusting, to be open, to be receiving from a man, to be respectful in their communication, to allow a man actually to become their hero and want to help them and give to them. And that's a huge principle of feminine energy, is that the feminine receives, the masculine is giving. And a lot of these women, when they come to us, they're primarily giving. They're like, I'm the strong one. I'm giving to the guys. I'm paying for things. I'm buying things. And we've had crazy stories of women, buying guys' houses basically, all the way up to that extreme. And so we have to help them to stop the madness and actually allow a man to start giving to them, which is really hard because it feels good sometimes. So when you're driving the car, you feel like you're in control, you have the power, you're leading the ship. But when you let go of the steering wheel and you allow a man to actually take that steering wheel and take care of you and drive you and make the decisions himself and plan the dates and buy things for you and cherish you, that can feel vulnerable. It can feel like, well, now you have to really surrender. You have to trust. And that for a
Mm.
lot of the inner aspects, the challenges come out. But then also, like, how do you communicate from that place? Like, are you good at actually asking for help? How do you ask for help properly from your feminine to where a man wants to give it to you? How do you share your feelings from your feminine? Like, for example, using I statements or using permissives like, may I ask, or can I, or could you, rather than just telling a man what to do. And that's one thing we always say is never tell a man what to do, always ask. Because when you ask, you're in your feminine, you're open to receive, and then he can guide, he can be the one
Mm.
leading. So there's so many principles that go along with that, but that's some of the basics of what we really focus on.
Wow, that is quite fascinating. And it sounds like, and I'm not just asking questions, not taking any sides and any of that kind of stuff, but it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is the movement, let's just say, of female power, feminist, what do you want to call it over the last, you would argue from what I'm hearing you is that actually could have caused, on one hand, there was some upside, but out of the downside is psychologically, this is pulling away some of the feminine power. Would you call it the polarity, the
Yeah.
feminine magnetism? You're saying that actually you'd argue that did some damage in some instances from taking away what people naturally could be.
Yeah, totally. In so many different levels, because for one, it comes along with this belief that a woman should not rely on a man. But the problem with that is men at their core, if a man is connected to his masculine core in a deep way and he's not broken, because there is a percentage of men who are deeply broken who can't cherish or devote himself to a woman no matter what she does. But for most healthy men, they need to feel needed. Like if a man doesn't feel that he can provide for a woman in some way, that he can't take care of her, he can't protect her, he's not valued, he's not respected or admired or revered or honored in some way, eventually he's going to feel like, why am I here? Like, why do you need me? You don't need me. And most men will become then depressed in a way. They'll lose their connection to their masculine core. They'll become more feminine, or they will become a shell of a man, or they just won't put up with it and they'll just walk away and leave. But ultimately, what ends up happening is a man doesn't feel that he can devote himself to her. And, if a man cares about a woman, he wants her to be happy. So if he doesn't feel like he can make her happy, he'll often say, well, you should probably be with somebody else, somebody who
Right.
can provide for you. I don't know who that is, but it seems like it's not me. So men won't be able to devote themselves fully because they won't feel that sense of purpose and meaning in the relationship, like a warrior, like a king. A man needs to feel a mission in his life, and a woman can become that sense of a mission, that he has somebody that he's providing for, somebody who values him in this world, and he gets a sense of purpose and meaning from that. And if a woman doesn't allow that because she's blocked off and she doesn't want to receive and she doesn't trust the man and she resents men and she's been hurt before and she doesn't want to make herself vulnerable again, so she won't rely on him, she won't ask for help, she won't share it in the right way. Instead, she'll tell a man what to do or complain or criticize or try to change him or treat him like a child. Then that destroys the polarity. And it goes both ways, of course, because broken men will attract this kind of behavior as well. But that's, yeah, exactly it. The societal messages, the cultural shifts that we've seen cause so many of these issues in relationships for men and women because we're detached from our natural cores.
I could spend the whole podcast going down this, and I appreciate all this, but I mean, I know this is almost two killer topics we're going to get into today. I could go down the rabbit hole. When I'm looking at the time, I'm like, damn, let's turn the page a little bit. And I think anybody listening to this is like, okay, I get it. Hopefully, get it. You really sparked some curiosity, and I totally understand what you're saying. And I think there's more for anybody interested. Obviously, you could reach out to you and go deeper. You've now, and I've witnessed it, you showed us a little bit of a playbook, and through your growth as a relationship coach and your wife's growth as a relationship coaches, you've been able to leverage some organic and do some incredible things with short form video. And that's been a huge success, so much, in fact, that now you're out there, you're consulting, you're teaching others how to do that. Let's get into that a little bit. So give us the macro, a little bit overview, and maybe a taste of some suggestions of what we could be doing.
Yeah. So basically, our organic journey when I left off was basically we had been doing workshops. Meetup.com changed their policies. They no longer allowed speed dating, dating coaching, or matchmaking on their platform. So they shut down a lot of our singles groups that we had in the Bay Area and basically almost killed our business overnight. But then we said the beauty of that is it allowed us to go virtual. And we're like, we're just going to go virtual. We don't need to be here in the Bay Area anymore. So we moved down to beautiful San Diego that we love. And we've been down here for, like 8 years now. And so basically that allowed us, it really forced us to go virtual with our business. And so we started with online summits because we had people who were inviting us to summits, and then we started attracting high ticket clients through that. And then we started doing our own summits. Like, well, we can do this. We hired a summit expert. We started doing online summits, and that was really great for a while and grow our business. But then we realized, well, summits is a lot of work, and we have to continue doing it. And, it was like wrangling in all the JV partners, and it was becoming a bit of a hassle for me. I had to do most of the logistics for that. And so I said, why don't we just focus more? We have our YouTube channel. We've been doing organic content. Like, what if we just stopped doing the summits and just went all in on organic content? So for a while, we just doubled down on our long form content, which was still doing pretty well. And I had some hangups around TikTok because I always thought TikTok was like dance videos, stupid stuff like that. But I had a friend who said, no, you should really check out TikTok. Like, there's a lot of like coaches and educators and educational content on there. And I know because I get a lot of myself. I'm like listening to Bitcoin experts and investing and all kinds of people on there. So I started checking out TikTok and I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. So then we started putting out some videos. And then I had a friend, I had a JV partner, and we also had a colleague. They were together doing a lot more stuff on TikTok than I was doing. And they'd kind of cracked a little bit of the code. So what they were doing that he told me about was very interesting to me, where my colleague working with our JV partner, our mutual friend, had started getting some videos that were going pretty viral. And then my mutual friend told me how he did it. And he said, well, basically what we're doing is we're going into YouTube and we're finding some of the top performing videos in the niche and the titles, and then we're just doing short videos about that. And we're giving a little call to action at the end, directing them to the link in the bio, and we're making good sales from that. And so the sales was interesting as well as the virality. And I'm like, yeah, we can build our audience. And so, but my friend wasn't really taking it to the next level. He's kind of, I guess in a way, he wasn't as driven as I was. And he was just kind of like sort of dabbling with it. But then I took that concept, I said, well, what if we went really hard on this? Like, what if we just focused on TikTok for the next like 3-4 months and just did this strategy where we took the best top videos on YouTube, used those topics, started making these short form videos and just pump them out. And so we started doing that, me and my wife, and we were at the peak, I believe we were doing about like six videos a day, sometimes 12 videos a day. It depends on how much we were doing, but it basically every day, every weekday, we were like at least doing 3 videos each. And then we would have very little editing done with those videos and just putting them on the TikTok. And because we realized that with TikTok, it was really a quantity game rather than a quality game. And the algorithm would pick up what was good. And we just tried to do our best, but it let the algorithm, let the audience decide what was good. And because they weren't really punishing us for putting out so much content. And this was around the end of 2020, more like 2021, when TikTok was also starting to become pretty big. And so things started catching. Some videos started going viral. We're getting 1 million views here, 1 million views there. And we started building our following. And then, so our TikTok started growing. And then I said, well, why don't we take our best videos? Because we didn't want to also burn out our Instagram audience. We couldn't do this as much as we were doing on TikTok on Instagram. So we said, let's take our best videos from TikTok, post them on Instagram. And that started working really well. And through that strategy, that's how we got 100,000 Instagram followers within 12 days, which is like the stat that I was most shocked by. We were growing on all platforms at that point because even the YouTube shorts were doing well. Our Facebook page was blowing up. Our TikTok was blowing up, of course. But then the Instagram was just like a couple videos went super viral and just went. Whoop. So that was basically how that went down.
Wow. So the strategy, to refresh, to summarize in a sense, because again, you showed us, is research. You went into YouTube, you research what out there. First, actually understand your niche, your avatar, and what you want to go after. Within that niche, you're able to research the top titles of other videos that were getting really viral. You would take that title and you just crank out a ton of content. And then TikTok, take the best of those and put it on Instagram. And that was the flow.
Yeah, it was three main steps. The first step is actually identifying your niche, which most people know what their niche is.
Yep.
But then step two would be to research, do market research on YouTube to look at who are all the top experts in your niche on YouTube. And I would just add them to a spreadsheet. That's what we did. We added them to, and that's what I mean when I took it to the next levels, we designed like a whole system around it where then we started putting them into the spreadsheet and categorizing the experts and ranking them based on who had the biggest followings and were getting the most views. And then the third step is to take the top videos from all of those top experts, put those into a separate spreadsheet and categorize those videos as well by top viewership and basically get a list of all the top videos that the niche wants, at least on YouTube. It's a great measurement of what the audience is hungry for. And then we would have a list. We would have a list basically of what that would lead into step four, which would be, okay, now taking those titles and making short form videos based on those titles. Because here's the thing with TikTok, with Instagram, that's still true to this day. What makes a video go viral, primarily in the educational space that I've seen, is the hook. We all know this as marketers. The hook is so important. It's like the headline. It's like the pickup line. You want to have a great hook, and that's what reels them in, so to speak. It reels them in that first couple seconds when they stumble upon your video, which hopefully the algorithm will put your video in front of some of the right people. And then that gives you an access to now give them some great content. And really what I believe is you should just put out your best content. A lot of marketers talk about this, but just put out your best, absolute best content in as short a period of time as possible. So we keep the reels to around, now you can do about 90 seconds or less. Before we used to do it 60 seconds or less. And that's it. That was the main idea behind it. And that was the main strategy behind it. But then what comes into play after that is, okay, now there's actually some work involved here. Now it's actually about doing that consistently for multiple days, ideally for multiple months. And we probably did it for like 4 or 5 months hardcore, but I recommend, I don't think most people need to do that. I would say just give it 90 days, the 90-day TikTok challenge, you can call it, and do that for 90 days consistently, at least putting out, I'd say at bare minimum, putting out 1 video a day, but ideally putting out 3 videos a day would be great. And you'll start to see some results over time. It's not going to click right away, but you're teaching the algorithm, you're starting to build a basic following, and then eventually that allows the space for something to really hit.
And then what platforms do you recommend first on the posting of all that, in all three, or?
No, first TikTok. I would say you don't want to burn out your Instagram. You don't want to burn out. You can maybe do this on your Facebook page. I wouldn't do it on YouTube, but TikTok is great because, like I said, the algorithm is a little different for TikTok and it's always changing, but it's still for the most part is the same, where they tend to show your videos first and primarily to new people rather than your existing audience. So what the benefit of that is, it doesn't allow you to burn out your audience with a bunch of crap content. So you have more license with TikTok to be experimental, to try things, to mess up. And your audience isn't going to leave you for that, or they may not even know about it probably. But then when something does perform well, it's going to go out to your followers and it's going to go out to a bunch of new people when the audience really likes it. And so that's why I recommend let TikTok be your testing ground and then take the top results from there. And then let's go to Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Facebook page, and wherever else you want to put it as the best approach for that.
I love it. I love it. And now you did this back pre AI craziness. How would you, knowing you know now about AI, how would you use AI to make this your workflow much easier?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So for one, AI can definitely help with the market research process. And I've seen some advanced stuff from Sammy and Brad who are finding ways to put this into workflows with AI agents that can help you with the market research primarily. Although I even caution them against this because I believe you should. The reason why this works, it's because it is so manual. And I'll explain why. I believe you can offload a lot of this to AI, but there's a lot of value in doing it manually, especially in the beginning, because that market research, doing that market research manually helps you to start getting it into your bones what the audience actually wants from a mass market perspective. Because when you're going through YouTube, you're seeing what's actually some of the most viral videos, and you start to understand the psychology behind why certain videos are getting clicked on. And so for you to get your hands dirty and really dig into it manually, there's a lot of benefit to that as you seep it into your subconscious. Now, also with the Reels itself, putting out the content manually, the big benefit for that rather than AI is, and I believe the reason why so many of our videos went viral is not because they were super polished, is not because that every word was perfect and the editing was great and the music was great and it was all perfect. It was actually because it was raw and authentic and real. And I'm sure if you go through your own timeline after this interview and you look at what videos seem to be getting shown to you and getting the most views, they're not often the super heavy AI videos or the super polished videos. They're actually just people usually holding their camera, just talking about some powerful concept or what they're doing. Maybe a little bit more polished than that nowadays. But I think there's a lot of value in actually the rough edits. And that's why all of our videos that went viral, they were just my phone and me and very little editing. And I think the reason why, and we've done a lot of high value production videos and they still haven't ever performed as well as those rough videos. And I think it's because of that. The psychology of, just like in dating, people want to authentically connect. They want to bypass a lot of the superficiality, the formality, and they want to feel your heart. They want to feel your core. And so the sooner you can give them that, they have that human connection. And so what I will say is with AI can help you with content idea generation. That's a great use of AI, is like, so you got these great topics, but now what are you going to talk about in the video? Well, ask ChatGPT, create a custom GPT with some of your best trainings and ask it, what do you think I should talk about for this topic? Like, what's the best idea? And it'll give you some ideas and you can use that so that you can get over some of the hump of resistance that you don't know what to talk about or you don't want to talk about anything. Well, use it for idea generation, something that seems exciting to you, and then just talk about that. So I think that's a good use case for it, idea generation. And you can experiment with occasionally putting out an AI video or two. Like, hey, let's say you got HeyGen set up. Let's say you have an AI avatar. Like, go ahead and put a couple of those videos out. Use the same format, but have it be totally AI generated script, AI generated video, and just see if it goes viral. You know, there's always a chance that something could still take off. And that's why I like TikTok, is you can experiment with that. And we tried a lot of that even back before AI got too advanced. You would have these like still images that you can get to like talk. We would do that with the viral voice that was off of 11 Labs. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But we created like an avatar called Love Guru Jesus. It like looked like a handsome, sexy Jesus, and he would like give love advice. It did okay, but it never performed at the level of our normal videos. So, but it was fun to test out.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think there's going to be a tendency, I think it's really what you said, because there's going to be a definite tendency for all us marketing folk and others to you leverage AI. You
Yes.
say, wow, let's just do AI. Let's just, the law of expediency is going to force us into that flow. So I want to reiterate that point. And I like what you said. I mean, I think there's something to the laziness factor that'll happen because it got us done quicker, allows you not to really consume and get a feel for things and pick up on little nuances that you're reading. So critical step that might be missed by a lot of people going through this. So I think hopefully those that are watching and listening can think through that a little bit. I like how you brought up Brad and Sammy's name. For those that don't know, those are, I assume you're meeting Brad Costanzo and Sammy Taggett over in San Diego. We have a very vibrant group out there that is I love to take action this. You do it and already you're forming ideas and companies. And I feel like every time we have a meeting, there's like a satellite sort of new company being formed off of in partnerships, which is great.
Yeah, they're like getting investors and putting together the plan. Yeah.
That's fun. What else am I missing in the flow? Any other suggestions you have?
Yeah, well, it's an important part. I didn't give this enough weight, I think, on the last talk that I did at our chapter meeting on this, but it really is. I think the difference that's going to make the difference for the people who succeed with this strategy I'm teaching here versus the ones who don't is actually the willingness to put in the work and to be willing to go through a phase of sort of a grind of putting out that amount of content and doing it in a sort of a non-AI, non-automatic type of way. But the beauty of it is, so you go through that process for 90 days, but then when you have these videos, you'll get a handful of videos that perform very well. You can continue to repurpose those. And that's like the phase 2 that I'm in, where I haven't even really made reels for like the last year. I still occasionally put some out, and I may be going through another phase where I go hard on it again. But I've just basically been living off of the fruits of that phase that we went through, where we have this collection of like 20 viral videos that have gone over 1 million views on multiple platforms. And we basically just repost them now. If you go to any of our social media, so Magnetize Your Man is our handle on all these channels. You can go to our website, magnetizeyourman.com. You can contact us there or DM us through Instagram or whatever. But if you have questions, but basically that's what we do. We just repost on all of our channels, those same videos, and they still get views. They still continue to bring in clients. And it's this nice evergreen mechanism. Once you've really tested, you've spun the wheel enough times at the casino and you know your winners and you can just keep playing them over and over again. So that's really a beauty of it. But a lot of people aren't willing to go through that phase in order to get there, which is, I think, the biggest challenge most people are going to have with this.
No, but I appreciate the upfront, two things to comment on and reiterate is, A, when you said that the first time, I was shocked that you could just fire off the same post that was there, 3-4 months ago or 6 months ago. And that's great to know. And it's like, hey, we keep squeezing juice out of this one. I think you're right. I think the message is clear what you're saying. This is not a get rich quick, aka a get user quick scheme. You could get to your 100,000 in 12 days like Brody, but it's going to take effort. And outside the research, let's say you do that research and you plan, and then you're doing your 6 videos a day. All I heard is 90 days. I mean, how much time on each day would you dedicate if you're mentally preparing for this?
Not that much. I mean, when I was doing it, once you get things dialed in, you can film 3 videos, you can have them posted potentially within 30 minutes. Within 30 minutes, you can be sitting down at your desk and totally done with it for the day, and maybe even quicker once you're really into it. Because what I'd recommend is there's a process of like editing the videos in a basic way that I would recommend on how to have them put out there, and then the call to action at the end and how it all flows together. But basically, you can have that all done within 20, 30 minutes. And then that's it for the day. Then it's just about the repetition, getting in the habit of that, whether you start that first thing. And like I have a friend, actually the same partner we had back in the day, he does that now every morning. So he's building up an investing brand, and he just does it first thing every morning. He puts out his films and puts out his shorts, his reels. Yeah. So you just get into the flow with it. And the other thing is having structure around you, having some maybe accountability and potentially some coaching around it, just getting someone who supports you on the journey. Like it's more of a battle internally, I would say, of battling with your own resistance. At least that's what it was for me. I was just so hungry to like make that happen that I just did it in that phase. And of course it helped that it was kind of during COVID and post COVID. So there wasn't really much else to do during that time, as we all know, except just kind of grind things out. At least that's what it was like for us. And then yeah, so basically being willing to go through that process and grind it out. Oh yeah, having the structure around it, the accountability, that's a big piece of it. That'll make it easier. Oh yeah, the internal resistance and your doubting voice, and also that you get tired of maybe having to say the same things over and over again. That's where AI can come in and help you get some variety on your content. And that's where I am actually now, where after doing this for so long, I got to the point where I can't say the same thing over and over and again. I'm just kind of done with it. And now we're focusing more on live streaming and whatnot. But I'm going to go back into it again, because your content also evolves over time and the topics evolve over time. What's hot in the market evolves. You can do your whole market research phase again a year later or 6 months later, and you'll find new topics. You'll find new experts that have popped up all of a sudden that are becoming big. And then you can model them and you can learn and you can put your own spin on it with new content, new fresh perspectives that you have. And so you can keep renewing it that way. And that helps with the internal resistance, which is maybe the biggest battle. A great book, by the way, that can help with this is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, to deal with that inner demon of like, the procrastination, the imposter syndrome and whatnot. Like that's going to be a big part of it, I think, for most people too, to get over.
Love it. So as we wrap, I'm going to kind of just turn one final question. You've been so stoked to have you in our San Diego community. You've been in our chat for about a year and a half. What have you enjoyed the most out of Speakeasy?
Yeah, I just love, the standard probably thing most people say is I love the community and the level of diversity of perspectives and background that most of us in the group being marketers have from different industries and different phases of our careers that we've gone through and whatnot, different ages. So I really love that, and just the topics that we go into and the networking that happens there and the sense of camaraderie and community that is very helpful. It's like it's nice to have that monthly touch point where no matter what happened that month, whether you had a really great month or a really bad month, you can come together and hear other people's journeys and kind of go back into the war room, go back into the tribal hut where you kind of re-strategize what's the next plan for this next month and just kind of get your morale back, lick your wounds maybe, or celebrate, and then get back out there and go to it. So I love the structure of it as well as the community. I say the big two things.
Love it. Well, appreciate that. And we appreciate having you in both San Diego, and now hopefully everyone else can see why we appreciate you having you in the community. Great addition, so much value, and I hope everybody gets an opportunity to connect with you, and thanks for sharing today.
Yeah, you're welcome, Eric.
And that's a wrap from the Speakeasy podcast. If something sparked for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, review it, and pass it to the one person who needs to hear this right now. Want in on the real mastermind? Tap the link in the show notes to apply. Until next time, keep scaling, stay sharp, and don't be the smartest one in the room.